This is breaking news.
Detective Joseph Kenny and the Bronx detectives who helped solve this case. Also with me are the prosecutors on this case. Assistant District Attorney Carl Miller, who is our homicide counsel, under the supervision of Christine Scatia, who is the chief of the Homicide Bureau. Along with them is James Brennan, Deputy Chief of the Trial Division, and Teresa Gottlieb, Chief of the Trial Division. I also want to thank from my office David Slott, who is the Chief of the Forensic Science Unit, Homicide Advocate Anna Pimentel, the Crime Victims Assistance Bureau, and all the detective investigators for their assistance in this case. In addition, I'd like to thank U.S. Attorney Damon Williams from the Southern District of New York and DEA Special Agent in Charge, Frank Tarantino III, as well as all the federal authorities who are working with us on this horrible, horrible case. And last but not least, I want to thank the NYPD for their partnership. Let me first begin by expressing my condolences again to Ziola and Otanil Feliz. There are really no words we can take or say to get justice for your little angel, Nicholas. And for little Abel and Kiara Garcia, and for Giselle Lino, who thank God survive. My heart goes out to their parents as well. Abel and Kiara's mother and father, Ana Yudelka Pena and Emmanuel Garcia, are also here with us. We will get justice for them, and that is evidenced by the unsealing of the indictment today in court. But we can only make sure this does not, what we have to do is make sure that this never, ever, ever happens again to another child in the Bronx or anywhere in New York City. A beautiful little boy lost his life, and 3 precious children, ages 8 months to 2 years old, became seriously ill from fentanyl poisoning. This is a catastrophe. Our sorrow is matched only by the outrage because these babies were used as shields to protect a narcotics operation. Nicholas's death was entirely, excruciatingly needless and avoidable. A grand jury has indicted the operator of the Divino Nino Day Care, her husband, and his cousin for murder under circumstances evincing a depraved indifference to human life, because that is what they had, for assault and other charges for allegedly exposing 4 babies to fentanyl stored in a daycare center, leading to the death of little Nicholas Dominici, who was only 22 months old. Gray Mendez, age 36, and Carlisto Brito, 41, were arraigned today on a 20-count indictment. Felix Herrera Garcia, age 34, is awaiting arraignment this afternoon. But all 3 of them have been charged with murder in the 2nd degree, 1st-degree criminal possession of a controlled substance, 2nd-degree manslaughter, 1st-degree assault, 2nd-degree assault, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th-degree criminal possession of a controlled substance, and 4 counts of endangering the welfare of a child. They were all arraigned, or will be arraigned, before Bronx Supreme Court Justice Margaret Clancy. The defendants have been remanded and are due back in court on November 27th of this year, 2023. According to the investigation, on September 15, 2023, at 2:43 p.m., in the apartment inside of 2707 Morris Avenue, here in the Bronx, that was a licensed daycare and where Brito resided in a bedroom, 4 children were poisoned by exposure to fentanyl, all of which resulted in the death of Nicholas Dominici and acute opioid intoxication requiring hospital treatment for the 3 other children. Emergency medical service technicians used Narcan to reverse symptoms of the brother and sister, but Nicholas unfortunately died. The other boy was treated at the hospital. I also want to give special thanks to Montefiore Hospital, as well as Bronx Care Hospital, and all of the first responders. They helped save the lives of the other 3 children. According to the investigation, a kilo of fentanyl was found in a closet in the daycare apartment, and 6 kilos of fentanyl, heroin, and other controlled substances were found under a trap door in the floor, under a padded mat where the children napped. Kilo presses and other drug paraphernalia were found in the apartment as well. This case is the bleakest reminder that we must be relentless in removing drug traffickers from our city and from our borough. 40 pounds of fentanyl were actually found in the same area of the daycare center some days after this horrific event. For years, our community here in the Bronx has been the hub for fentanyl distribution and has suffered so many deaths. Since 2019, the overdose rate has more than doubled in the Bronx. In fact, the brother of Felix Herrera Garcia died from fentanyl overdose a year ago. Because of this daycare that served as a front, and in light of the ghost guns found in a home of a child care facility in Manhattan, we will be delving into home daycare centers in the Bronx. My investigations division and my detective investigators will look to determine what the gaps are and whether other things are needed to be a part of regulations to make sure that these home daycare centers are trustworthy and safe. We did a similar investigation in 2018 in response to the death of an FDNY chief, Michael Fahey, when a marijuana grow house exploded. And again, because of that work, we shut down some 30 marijuana grow houses in the Bronx that had dangerous conditions that could have led to more fires and more deaths. So again, my condolences to Nicholas's family and the families that suffered this frightening ordeal. In honor of Nicholas and those other babies, we are going to do everything, and I'm telling you, I have promises to these families that I'm going to do everything in my power to prevent the loss of another child here in the Bronx. These children are my children. They're our children, and it's our responsibility to make sure we do all that we can to keep them safe and to protect them. At this time now, I'll ask Chief Kenny to say a few words.
Thank you, Madam DA. Obviously, a very complex case here. This case led us through multiple states and actually out of the country into Mexico. So on behalf of Commissioner Caban, I would like to thank those responsible for the apprehension of these 3 dangerous criminals. Thank you to the 5-2 Detective Squad and to members of Bronx Homicide who are here with me today. A great job done by all members of Detective Borough Bronx that day under the leadership of Chief Tim McCormack, We were able to pull together numerous resources. We put every asset we had into this case to make sure it came to a successful conclusion. I'd also like to thank members of the NYPD Emergency Service Unit and the K-9 unit that secured that location, and the dog was used to find that kilo of fentanyl. I'd like to thank the Regional Fugitive Task Force and our friends from the U.S. Marshal Service for the apprehension attempts that they made during the course of this investigation. I would like to thank the NYPD DEA Strike Force, our federal partners that handled this case both in New York City, Pennsylvania, California, and in Mexico. They played a very important role of bringing this case to a successful conclusion. A special thanks to the FDNY, who responded to the scene initially, and to the members of EMS, who recognized, although they were small children, recognized immediately that these children had some sort of opioid exposure and immediately took action and gave them Narcan, saving their lives. Finally, a thank you to our federal partners, the DEA in New York City, nationwide in multiple states and in Mexico, and to the U.S. Marshal Service, once again, nationwide, multiple cities, for their apprehension attempts of the fugitive Herrera, who we finally were able to apprehend in Mexico. And DA, Madam DA, a special thankful to you and to Christine Scacia and your entire team for everything you did on this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Now, at this time, I will ask Mr. Felice if he would like to say a few words. Come up. He is the father of Nicholas.
I'm going to speak in Spanish.
Okay, you're going to speak in Spanish.
Sí. Quiero agradecer a todos aquí presentes,
I want to thank everyone who is present here,
en especial a todos los encargados de que este caso llegue al punto en el que está.
specifically to everyone in charge that let this case get to the point where it is now.
A todas las autoridades, la policía, los departamentos de
All
salud,
the authorities, the health department, the police department,
a todo el que ha puesto su parte para que busquemos una solución.
who did their part so that we could find a solution.
Yo entiendo que se va a hacer justicia
I understand that justice will be done,
y todo lo que se haga,
and everything that will be done,
todo lo posible,
everything possible,
no me va a devolver a mi hijo.
it will not bring my son back.
Pero yo quiero hacer algunas peticiones en honor a él.
But I want to make some petitions in honor of him.
Nada no lo devuelve, repito, pero
I repeat, nothing will bring him back,
quiero hacer algunas peticiones en su nombre,
but I want to make some petitions in his name.
porque es una parte muy importante de nuestra familia
He is a very important part of our family,
y ahora mismo
and right now,
parte de toda nuestra sociedad.
part of our whole society.
Y en nombre de mi hijo yo quiero hacer peticiones porque
In my son's name, I would like to make some petitions.
las personas mayores, por ejemplo, tienen lugares de
Older
cuidado,
people, for example, have places where they receive care,
pero recientemente se ha patentado opciones para que se le pague a familiares para que los cuiden en casa.
but recently they now have options so their own family members can take care of them in their homes.
Y si analizamos el presupuesto que se utiliza para una persona mayor, ejemplo de 65
The
años,
budget that's given, for example, someone who is 65 years old,
va a tener cuidado hasta que su vida termine, algunos 90 o 100 años de edad.
until their life ends, some of them even up to 90 years old.
Pero si para nuestras familias que no confían en los daycare,
But for our families who do not trust daycares,
por lo menos para los niños desde su nacimiento a 6 meses,
children from birth until 6 months old,
o mejor dicho, desde los 6
or
meses
better yet,
hasta los 3 años para ir a 3K,
until 3 years old to go to pre-K,
son solo 2 años.
it's only 2 years.
Se puede buscar un presupuesto para aquellas familias que no confían en los daycare, se le pague a algunos familiares para que cuiden de
Who
él.
do not trust in daycares, you can pay a family member to take care of them.
Esto no va a beneficiar a mi familia, pero al menos es algo que va a ayudar a nuestra comunidad a salir adelante.
Help our community and help us march forward.
Para seguir trabajando por este bello Nueva York que nos ha abierto las puertas a tantas personas que venimos
Beautiful New York who has opened the doors to all of us people who have arrived
de diferentes partes del
from
mundo.
different parts of the world.
No importa si tenemos documentos
Doesn't
legales,
matter if we have legal documents.
si no tenemos documentos
If we
legales,
don't have legal documents,
la ciudad nos abre las
the
puertas
city will open its doors to us.
y le agradecemos como comunidad
And
inmigrante.
we thank you as an immigrant community.
Pero así como trabajamos fuerte por nuestra ciudad,
But the same way in which we work hard for our city,
En nombre de mi hijo, yo pido que las autoridades encargadas analicen esta propuesta
That the authorities in charge analyze this suggestion
y ver qué se puede hacer en ese punto.
and see what can be done to that point.
Otra cosa que quiero pedir en nombre de mi
And
hijo
the other
es
thing that I want to ask in my son's name is
que a partir de ahora,
that from now on,
si van a hacer una inspección
if you're
en
going
un daycare,
to do an inspection in a daycare,
no mandes un aviso,
don't
porque
send a prior warning,
cualquier cosa que esté mal
because anything that's wrong
va a estar bien el día de la inspección.
will be fine the day of the inspection.
Hagan inspecciones sorpresa.
Do surprise inspections.
Nunca está de más estar un paso adelante.
It's never too much to be one step ahead.
A los padres,
To the parents,
lamentablemente,
sadly,
tenemos que, en ciertos momentos, como le tocó a mi familia, recurrir a un daycare
like my family, we
para
have to
poder trabajar y salir adelante.
in a daycare in order to work and keep moving forward.
Pero si es la única opción que
But
tienes,
if that's the only option you have,
hazlo.
do it.
Sal adelante.
Keep going forward.
No confíes en el lugar al 100%.
Don't trust the place 100%.
Ve de sorpresa, abre puertas,
Go as a
abre
surprise.
gabinetes,
Open doors,
ve
open
donde
cupboards,
duermen tus hijos,
see where your children
revisa las almohadas, los colchones,
check the mattresses
porque no
and pillows,
sabemos.
because we don't know.
Queremos confiar
We
para
want to
salir
trust
adelante.
in order to keep moving forward.
Tenemos que trabajar juntos,
We have to work together.
pero cada uno como padre
But each one as a parent
tiene que estar seguro de que todo está bien en el lugar.
that everything is fine in that place.
Yo como padre tenía miedo de que mi hijo fuera tocado impropiadamente en un lugar de esos.
Feared that my son would be touched inappropriately in a place like that.
Esa es la razón por la que siempre he trabajado yo y mis otros hijos siempre lo cuidó mi esposa.
I have always worked and my wife has taken care of my other children.
Pero por la situación difícil,
But due to the
ok,
difficult
por Nicolás lo
situation,
tuvimos que hacer.
okay, we had to do so for
Y
Nicholas.
fueron solamente 5
And
días
it was only 5 days
en los que tuve a mi hijo
in which I had
en
my
ese
son
lugar.
at that place.
Y yo esperaba que para dentro de unos 4 años
That within 4 years,
yo tener su foto de graduación de
I could
kindergarten.
have his kindergarten graduation photo.
Pero lamentablemente
But sadly,
lo que tengo es un recordatorio de mi
what
hijo,
I have is a reminder
de su muerte.
of his death,
Y eso tiene que cambiar.
and that has to change.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Would Ms. Pena or Mr. Garcia like to make any remarks? No? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, I want to, questions on this topic? Or you want them, did you want them to leave first? Oh, of course. How could I forget? Have to thank the medical examiner, Dr. Graham. I actually saw him a few days ago and thanked him personally for making sure that they're in the lab to make sure that we got all the evidence that we needed, the medical evidence that we need to make the case. We want to, ask questions. Okay, so we'll take some questions on this topic if you have them. What? Of him?
He wants to come back up if people want to ask him any questions.
All right, so they're going to leave now and then he'll come back? Oh, come back? Oh, come up here. Oh, of course. Absolutely. Please. Oh, okay. All right. You ready? You need me? Well, okay. Questions?
Pregunta.
Can you talk about some of this evidence that we haven't seen with what's in the safe here?
Okay, Miles, I thought people might have questions for the father. Does anyone have questions for him because they're going to leave before?
Okay, nos vamos a ir antes de que aceptemos preguntas. Señor,
A daycare center is a place
una guardería es un sitio de confianza. ¿Usted qué piensa de alguien que mete a los niños en peligro al guardar e intercambiar drogas ahí?
Personally, we trust in this daycare because we wait for 1 year in a home base for an space because, you know, it's a lot of kids on the city. We got finally this space on this daycare through this home base, and then every single day, the lady in charge sent text messages to my wife. We trust in she. because she keep us updated on everything happen every single day on the daycare. We never imagined this gonna happen. And then, like, it's time to eat. My boy was eating. She sent us pictures because my boy was eating. And every single stuff happening over there concerning to my child, we having communication with them. We feeling good about it. We trust on this daycare because everything was going okay. Our son go happy inside, come happy when we're going to pick him up. Now, I give this information to you, and now answering your question. What I think about it? There are some audible. There are, if we call person to them, we offended the person word because they don't have the right to call person to this. I don't have the word, the exact word to call them because, you know, take the place that is supposed to take care of the kids using to work with the more words, traffic on the word, with the drugs. Never imagined that.
Mi
Thank
más
you.
sentido pésame. Usted podría,
Can you speak up?
usted podría decir si hubo algo de verdad de que a usted le recomendaron, a una cierta persona le recomendó a usted esta guardería.
We was recommended by a home base. It's supposed this place is have license, the person have license, and everything was okay. My wife said on the same day, on the morning, when my wife dropped off the kid over there, the supervisor from the home base was on the place. That make us like feel safe about it because the supervisor wasn't there on the same day. But another thing, on September 9th, on the Sabbath week, we start carrying Nicola to the place. They pass inspection. How we can imagine something wrong gonna pass in this place? Because have inspection on the beginning of the year and have inspection exact same day when we start giving our son on this place.
¿Usted se siente engañado por Greg?
Yes.
¿Usted qué desea decirle a ella?
For example, if you buy one car and somebody told you, this is brand new, everything is okay on this car. When you run away and burn the engine, how you feel about it? That's all I feeling. She do everything I said in the past, text messages, photos, and everything about our son. Make us trusting on she. But she was lying every single day because his purpose was not take care of the kids. Is you take one big screen, they care, but the real business was behind this screen. Taking the life of the kids on risk just for make money on this way. I can't imagine that.
Cuando estuvimos en la corte, y la señora Méndez y el señor Brito entraron, fue algo muy emocionante para su familia, para las familias. ¿Usted nos puede hablar más acerca de ese momento? ¿Cómo es para su familia ver a estas dos personas en persona así de cerca?
If I take on a scale to measure this, broke all the rules. Because at the moment, I saw this lady just one time, and then it's not supposed this man live on the same place, because this place was supposed used for the daycare, not for a rented room. And when my son died, we have the new, another person was living in there. If I know this, I don't send my kids to this place because I sending my son to a daycare, not for one place that is having a rented room, because I don't know who is this person. And I don't trust on anybody is not licensed to be close to my son. And then when they go inside together, we feel really emotional because we remember every single detail from this tragic day. It's really hard to us.
All right, any other
¿Alguna otra
questions?
pregunta?
One more question, because I don't want to really,
¿Tú puedes decir eso? ¿Cómo tú te sientes por
Well, you-
parte del daycare?
you gotta interpret for us to know what you-
Contacto como madre también me
You know, as a mother, I identify with you. How do you feel? And I'm very sorry. How do you feel in regards to this? To the parents in Spanish.
Yo, en representación de mi familia, que
I,
sentimos colectivamente lo mismo,
representing my family, we collectively feel the same thing.
nos sentimos engañados
We feel betrayed
por ese daycare,
by that daycare
porque se nos mandaba fotos,
because they would send us photos,
se nos mandaba mensajes de texto con cada cosa que pasaba en el
would
día.
send us text messages with each and every little thing that happened throughout the day.
Y confiamos, porque vimos que era un lugar
We trusted.
en donde se nos mantenía comunicados.
Because we saw that it was a place that maintained us informed.
Algo que no mencioné antes,
Something that
yo
I did not
llené
mention,
como 5 papeles para contactos de emergencia, por si algo pasa.
filled out about 5 pages of emergency contact information in case something were to happen.
Y esto pasó y nos enteramos
This
a
happened,
última hora.
and we found out at the very last moment.
¿Para qué fueron las hojas de contacto de emergencia?
What were the forms for emergency contact for?
Ella ni siquiera se tomó el momento para llamar a la
She
policía.
didn't even take a moment to call the police.
Saber todas estas desastrosas cosas que están
And
sucediendo
knowing all of these disastrous things that are happening,
nos traen acumulado todos los sentimientos negativos
It
que tú
brings
puedas pensar,
all together
a la
all of
misma vez.
the negative feelings you could possibly feel at the very same time.
pero nos sentimos engañados
But we
porque
feel betrayed
esa persona
because that person
nos mostró a nosotros
showed us
que era un lugar confiable,
that it was a place that you could trust.
que ella iba a ser como una madre para nuestro
That
hijo
she
ahí
was
en ese tiempo,
going to be like a mother for our son in that time.
porque cada momento que hacían cualquier cosa los
Because
niños nos
at any
mantenían como
moment-
padres informados.
The children did anything, they kept us, the parents, informed.
Pero todo esto fue una pantalla
But all of
para el
this
gran negocio que
was a
tenían
screen
atrás de las drogas.
for the huge business that they had going on in the back.
Eso es
drugs.
inaceptable.
That's unacceptable.
all right. Thank you, Mr.
Gracias.
Feliz. Thank you.
Gracias, señor Feliz.
Thank you. Any other questions? So somebody was asking something about the pictures.
Can you just walk us through what we're looking at on these pictures?
Okay, what we're looking at, this is,
In the sink here.
you want to do it?
Sure, yeah. So this is a picture,
Oh, you gotta stand there.
oh,
Oh,
sorry.
yes.
Can you turn it a little bit towards me? Got it. So,
He's trying to keep it. Okay. She's saying because
you want to keep?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, he's the prosecutor on the case, so and cannot speak at a press.
So this is inside of the daycare center. This mat this is the area in which underneath the drugs were. Underneath that mat is where, you see, under there, this is where the trap door was. The mat would have been on top of that, and underneath this floorboard here is where the trap was and all the drugs was. This is Narcan. Comes to find out that they used some type of Narcan in that center before emergency services came. So they had this, the defendants, in the apartment before the emergency service arrived. Wait, one second. Huh? What? It was unopened, but then somebody opened it, right?
No, it was found in the medicine cabinet.
Oh, it was found in the medicine cabinet, and they pulled it out. All right. Yes.
Can you tell us what penalties these defendants face on the state charges and how that compares to what they would face as the federal?
Well, under the state, I could tell you the state charges because the feds have a totally different sentencing system. So, I mean, we're prosecuting this simultaneously. I mean, my case is about this murder of this child and the attempted murder of these children. This is about the human side of the case, as well as the drugs that were recovered. This is the Bronx. We care about the people and our children dying. So that's the primary charges I have is murder in the second degree, which the minimum, if convicted, is 15 years, anywhere to 25 years, and life is on the other end. So that's the maximum that they face under. No, 25, 15 is the minimum. It's a range. Anywhere from 15 to 25 is the minimum, and the maximum is life. There's always life at the end of the murder charge. But the judge can start anywhere, if they're convicted of the murder too, anywhere from the minimum being 15 years to life up to the maximum of 25 years to life.
Darcel, the presence of the Narcan in the medicine cabinet suggests that the daycare knew it had a problem. What had gone on there previously, and had the mother pulled her own toddler out of that daycare previously?
This is all part of the investigation. The investigations continue. I'm not going to go into all of the evidence, but it speaks for itself that they had Narcan in a place, like, and we find a whole drug lab there. So it speaks for itself.
Did you know anything about the mother having her own, I was told she had her own young child there who was absent the day that this happened?
Again, I can't speak to what is being uncovered in the investigation, but I know what we uncovered, which was Nicholas dead and 3 others almost due to Narcan, due to fentanyl.
Because both parents are, the father was on the lam and the mother has been arrested. Is their
I
child?
don't know. Do you know anything? I have no idea. I'm not sure of that. We'll have to get back to you on that.
Do you know if the children were exposed to the fentanyl from under the trap door,
I
or
think they are in ACS.
how they were exposed?
Not necessarily sure, but the place was full of it. The mat that they were sleeping on had fentanyl underneath. The closet door where fentanyl was found, toys were in there, other sleeping mats, etc. The exposure, and again, remember, it's just a tiny bit of fentanyl can kill an adult, so you know what it can do to a child. So the exposure is the fact that they were in that apartment and exposed to it, and they weren't before that. I can't hear you.
Sorry, did the subsequent discovery of fentanyl 5 blocks from the original daycare center, was that a result of a link between the 2 incidents?
No, not that I know of. Not that I know of. I'm sorry.
You mentioned that you're going to be going throughout daycare centers in the Bronx, taking a harder look at them. Could you just elaborate on exactly what that will entail, how that will be done?
I'm going to follow the evidence wherever it leads us, but most importantly, I want to investigate how is it determined that people can open up these home daycare centers. There are regulations, rules, licensing. I'm going to look into all of those things to see, are there any gaps? Are there things that they're missing? Things that should be part of these inspections that haven't been before. It's unfortunate that a death has to happen before we look into more things, right? So I'm going to make sure I look into everything to make sure that I can also make recommendations to the city as to how this can be done. If we could continue to have home daycare centers, and if so, how should they be regulated so we can make sure that we never have another death again? Anyone else?
You sound angry. How angry are you about this?
Look, these are our children, wouldn't you? I mean, you send your child, you go to daycare, you're trying to work, make a living, you leave your child there in the hands of these daycare providers. You expect to be able to pick up your child at the end of the day. But instead, this family comes there and now their child is dead. Yes, I'm angry. I'm hurt. And, and I'm just saddened by it. Because these people use this as a front, a daycare as a front for a drug operation. This was not really a daycare center. This was a drugs operation. And they used babies as a shield in order to run that operation. I am outraged. Anybody should be outraged over something like that. Any other questions?
What did inspector from the city recent guy inspection? They didn't find anything.
Well, that's some of the things that we have to look into. They were inspected, they were licensed, everything. We have to look at what that looks like. What does that mean? How involved is this investigation? These investigations for these types of daycare centers.
As far as you know, any priors for any of the suspects who've been indicted?
No. Nothing. All right. Thank you very much.